Hello members, and welcome to my handheld collection. I say the word collection that way because I'm not really much of a collector, I'm more of an accumulator. So starting out, to absolutely nobody's surprise, the PSP 1000. The PSP wasn't my first handheld, that honor goes to the Game Boy Advance, but it was definitely the first handheld I really fell in love with. Now, this isn't my original launch model, that got sold and traded in, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But even after all these years, I still absolutely love this thing. I went from a Game Boy Advance SP to a Nintendo DS to this. Now, I traded in my DS and GBA for this for 4 main reasons. Medieval Resurrection, Jak and Daxter Lost Frontier, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, and Daxter. It really was that near PlayStation 2 quality of games that really drew me into the PSP. Also the fact that they came on adorable little discs. To this day, I find this to be one of the coolest things about this handheld. We're gonna stick this one right here for now. Next up is another familiar face. My PSP 3000 that I have extensively modded. So this guy started out in life as just a regular old black PSP 3000. I believe I bought it with a broken screen too. And I went through, replaced the screen, put it in this lovely transparent purple shell. And then I added the buttons from I think these were from a silver PSP. I found someone on eBay that was just selling a set of the buttons. I don't enjoy playing on this one that much because the PSP 3000 screen has this weird kind of interlace effect to it, and I really don't like it at all. In fact, getting this guy is what convinced me to get a 1000 and mod it with the IPS screen. And that's my preferred way to play PSP games, at least on original hardware anyway. Next up, the PSP Go. This is another console that's been reshelled, only I wasn't the one that reshelled it. I actually bought this as one that was reshelled because someone was selling it for like the same price as a used PSP Go, and I was like, oh, well, it's already a fun color, so I just got this one. Problem with that, you may notice when I slide it, it doesn't display the clock or go into sleep mode, and that's because whenever they did the shell swap, they didn't move this little magnet that's inside the screen assembly, and that's what tells the PSP whether it's open or closed. Now, I do have one of those magnets. I keep it stashed right up here. So at some point, I need to tear this thing apart and put that magnet back in, and then it will be a fully functional PSP Go. But I'm holding off on doing that because I want to do a video on the battery mod that you can do on these guys. Now, the main reason I want to do the battery mod is because it makes the PSP Go thicker. I gotta say, that's my biggest gripe with this thing, is just how small it is. It's really not comfortable to use in any way, and I'm hoping it being thicker kind of fixes that. But yeah, I mean, when this thing came out, I thought it was really dumb. I honestly just didn't understand why Sony would make something like this. It was more expensive and it was digital only, and at least back then it was really stupid. But now I feel totally different about it. I think this is one of the coolest console redesigns ever. And this screen, oh man, this screen is so good. I guess we'll set this one here. Now we're gonna get into something a little bit more interesting. The NVIDIA Shield Portable. I remember specifically saving up money and selling my PSP and all of its games so I could order one of these. God knows what I was thinking. It was really dumb and a massive mistake because this thing was expensive. This thing launched for what, $300 I think? And the main reason I bought this was for in-home streaming. And back in 2013 when this thing launched, in-home streaming was still in its infancy. And as a kid, I didn't really know how in-home streaming really worked. And I didn't understand that you also needed a good router. And the router that we had at home was just not good. It was a very cheap router because we didn't have fast internet, so there was no point to get a nice router. But regardless, I tried in-home streaming. It worked well sometimes. Most of the time, it didn't work well at all. But I could emulate all my PlayStation 1 games, so that was fun. That's probably the thing I remember the most about this, is it was my first introduction to emulating other devices. I remember playing through all the Spyro games, Crash Team Racing, Medieval 1 and 2, and having a great time doing that on this device. Kinda stupid, because I could have also done the same things on the PSP that I sold, but this does have a much nicer screen. God, this thing is such a chunky monstrosity. So after being thoroughly disappointed by the NVIDIA Shield, I then turned around and sold it after I think having it for less than a year. And I bought myself one of these. This isn't actually the one that I bought. Back when I sold the Nvidia Shield, I bought a slim PS Vita, and it was the one with the Borderlands 2 bundle. I was really into that game at the time, and having it to go just sounded so amazing to me. It's a shame it's not a very good version of that game. I don't remember when or why, but I sold my PSP Slim and I bought one of these maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Main reason I went with this one over the Slim is because it's a little bit thicker, so it's easier to hold, and it has that nice OLED screen, which is a little oversaturated, but it looks very nice. I think technically this is a 3G model, so if I really wanted to, I could open it up, remove the 3G module, and put in an SD card adapter. I don't really have any desire to actually do that, although I do need to open this up at some point and swap out the battery. It really doesn't hold a charge very well anymore. Despite not really having a whole lot of games that I actually enjoy, I did enjoy the PS Vita for a handful of things. Playing Minecraft on the go and the Jak and Daxter collection on the go, absolutely amazing. Those were my favorite things about this thing. I guess we can set you on top of here. And now we come to this. A new 3DS XL. That has definitely seen better days. Oh god, hopefully Nintendo never sees this. Main reason I picked up one of these was because I wanted a convenient way to play all of the Pokemon games, and after I set it up for that, I then just kind of never played any of the Pokemon games. I have played a lot of Transformers Autobots though. You may laugh, but that is one of the best Transformers games ever made. That's about all I got to say about that. I really don't use this thing that much. Next up, my launch model Nintendo Switch that I haven't used in some time. That's about all I've really got to say about it. And now for what is quite possibly one of my favorite things to have come out recently. The Steam Deck. Oh, that's upside down. This thing is so cool. I'm kinda bummed that after I bought it, 2 months later, they released the OLED version. The LCD screen isn't bad by any means, but compared to the OLED, there's just no competition. And I really wish that I would have known that that was gonna happen. I'm not really into multiplayer games, so the fact that it runs Linux doesn't really bother me that much. Really, the only multiplayer game that I play is Stampede, and that's Steam Deck compatible. Oh, if anyone's wondering what type of case this is, I actually bought this a few days ago. It's made by Nyko. It's not bad, although its fit isn't exactly great. It's only on the left side though, the right side's fine. It's been really cool having a handheld that can play the majority of the PC games that I play, plus my PlayStation 1 games, plus my PlayStation 2 games, plus my PlayStation Portable games. It's so good, but I don't really think of it as a portable device. Sure, I can pick it up and pretty much take it wherever I want, but it's not really that small. It's also pretty heavy, so the only places that I use it are docked at my desk, or lying in bed, or sitting on the couch. I feel like a distinction needs to be made between handheld gaming device and portable handheld gaming device. But that's just me. Regardless, love the Steam Deck. Well, this is it. This is the final handheld, the last one, the most recent one that I have purchased. The Game MT E6 Plus. If I'm being honest, I bought this thing with the intention of reviewing it for the channel, and then I just never had time and kind of forgot about it. I couldn't even be bothered to resize the background image. All that being said, I do think this thing is kind of cool. It's not particularly powerful, really only able to emulate up to PS1, but it does run Android, which means I can install Google Play and be disappointed with Google Play games. I don't know, maybe someday I could do an actual review, but I mean, there's a new version of this thing coming out now. I think it's the, oh god, they're calling it something stupid, like the E6 Pro Max or something dumb. And it's gonna be the exact same device, but with just slightly improved things. I think it's even gonna have the same chip in it. But I mean, comparing this to the Nvidia Shield, the OG Android handheld, this thing is quite a bit more capable. Not necessarily in raw performance, but the fact that it runs Android 10, it does mean you can install quite a bit more games, but its performance really isn't that good. A lot of the older Android games and ports, those work just fine. Some PSP is actually playable, but I think a lot of that comes down to being able to support the Vulkan graphics API instead of being stuck with old versions of OpenGL. But I mean, it's a cute little handheld. The screen is actually okay. It's not too bad. Very much designed it after the Steam Deck. I think the biggest thing holding this back is the price of it. It's usually somewhere between $65 and $70, which I think might be a little too much for it, especially given the build quality. This D-pad sucks, these buttons are terrible, but its performance just like isn't that good. But there you have it, all of the handhelds that I have right now. I do want to get more. Probably my next investment will be like Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, because there's a lot of wacky and crazy accessories for those consoles. Thank you members for supporting me, and I will see you next time.